here from Chicago? Or close? No. Okay. So we could do something like this around here too. Let's see if it'll play for me. It is specific to trauma recovery and adolescence. We're having trouble with the sound today. And then I got it fixed. Here it is. See if I can start it over and unplug it. How many of you guys have watched Paper Tigers? The documentary? Okay. Why does it not want to play? Of course it won't.
First it was like, man, I can make this. Now I know how to make bases.
Being a teenager who's just been shot, your life has been on the streets, and now you're at a turning point.
That was the story for two young men you're about to meet. They each found their way by creating art from fire. Take a look.
There's nothing right now to me. But at first it was like, man, I can make this. Now I know how to make bases and cups and bowls.
Deontay Holman also knows how to fight fire with fire. Just about 8 years ago, he was a kid, spending a lot of his time on the streets until he got shot and ended up in the hospital.
My mama wasn't coming up there to see me and stuff. So like I was going crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like breakdowns, feel like don't nobody care about me.
At just 14, he had to make a decision about where the rest of his life would go.
I'm shot up, I'm hurt. What else I'm gonna do? Like I'm gonna go back to the streets and get messed up again.
He didn't want that, so instead he came here to Chicago's East Garfield Park neighborhood, where he found Firebird Community Arts and Project Fire.
And this right here is like
It's a trauma recovery program that partners with the violence recovery group Healing for People Chicago. Hospital social workers and psychologists meet with young people who've been shot and help them process their trauma and rebuild. Twice a week, there's 3 hours of creating glass art and 1 hour of counseling.
put the water on there, see it make a sizzle.
But why glass art?
It does something for especially young people who are drawn to risk behavior. Whatever it is that's going on in your life and in your mind and in your heart before you come in, kind of needs to sit aside while you blow glass, because this is a hot, dangerous thing and we need to focus on it.
Just a place you can get away, like, from your problems.
After he was shot 7 years ago, Linquel Biggs couldn't even watch TV for fear he'd see images of people getting hurt. He says the staff at Project Fire has helped him get through that.
They go above and beyond, like, stuff that they ain't got to do.
We can talk about hard things because I've seen that you keep me safe and I keep you safe and we can do things together.
Project Fire's extended family is the East Garfield Park community. The artists and their neighbors have embraced each other.
And then the wonderful people who live here, there's families all along the streets that border us and young kids, and we, are opening our doors to them and hope to do more public programming.
That works for both Deontay and LA, who now are Project Fire instructors and professionals who sell their art. But it's the feeling of security that Project Fire gives them, which has made all the difference.
We'll come here, I can feel down about some stuff that's going on at home, but they gonna make sure like life get better. Like before you leave, after you leave here, you're gonna be more definitely happy for sure.
I just want to be able to keep doing this one, do something good in life.
Love that story. That was Audrina Vigas reporting. As much as they love their current home, the staff at Firebird Community Arts is trying to raise money to move to a new, larger facility soon. All of these people are so dedicated, and they must be. It can get as hot as 90 or 95 degrees in that workroom, but very important, there are fans going, and everyone is reminded to stay hydrated.
All right, so that was one breakdown. Have you guys heard of Kelly Vidal? She's a talk show host. Let me see if I can get. It was Kelly Clarkson show. Have you guys heard of that? I've never heard. So what is that? I guess it's out of Chicago. this is being featured on the Kelly Clarkson show. So it's Wednesday. They're filming. I don't know if they show it live Wednesday or if they like film it and wait a minute. But this was the other clip on it, again, about trauma recovery, which is cool because there's not a lot of trauma recovery.
Glass blowing is particularly effective in working with students who've been exposed to traumatic experiences, partially because of the risk that's involved in working with the material. It's potentially dangerous for working with 2,000-degree molten material. It requires quite a level of trust to be able to work with the material.
Have to learn how to walk again, like, and try to run again, all that stuff. Like, that was like the worst part. The bullet's still in my leg right now. Like, I've been like kind of started to change my life around, like, ever since like a lot of people, I've been losing a lot of people and stuff like that. Glass one, I have to do that because they'll be like, you don't look like you blow glass or something like that. But I can show them better than I can tell them. Like, people look at you different too. Like, he ain't just trying to be out in these streets. He's trying to really do something with his life.
My end all goal for the students here is that they see other opportunities for themselves in any field, in any medium, in any way. They see a sense of future.
Hey, that looks good. What do you think? It's a nice shade, man.
So that is some of the things you would do with trauma-informed care. So you use what's called a sensory-based intervention because a lot of times the trauma is stored in your brain and it can't be released until you might do something artsy or you might do something that's sensory-based, and that's clearly with the 90-degree room and working with 2,000-degree material. Some people, because they say left-handers are artistic, they use the right brain, so it kind of unleashes. When we experience a trauma, we hide it, like our brain wants to forget about it, so we hide it deep back into your memories. There's stuff you might not remember as a kid until we do a sensory-based intervention, so stuff that's stored away, and why it's important to do stuff like that. As we were getting into the end of this chapter, I was going to try to get Paper Tiger shown. I can't remember if it copyright infringes me, so I might not show it during class, but I could also try. So we'll see. I feel like only you have watched it at this point, right? Nobody else has seen Paper Tigers in here, so you get to be an expert on it. You get to be an expert on trauma-informed care and the documentary Paper Tigers. There's your code of ethics. Where did you guys want to do your interns as you get into your like junior, senior years? Where are you all wanting to do internships?
So those are required.
Right, yeah. If you're getting a social work degree.
Okay, well, I thought the intern got to go to Toledo.
So
do I got to do it during the school?
It is 12 credit hours during the school year, and you take a 3 credit hour course that's connected to that. So you can talk with Nikita Jackson. She's our field director. She can give you other ideas and things. It is all semester, so it's like a 40-hour week for 16 weeks because it's 400 hours, so it would probably only be 30 hours a week for 16 weeks. It's your senior year, so either first or second semester.
Oh, okay, so you just do the internship as senior year.
Right, it's part of your 15 credit hours that you're taking.
Oh, okay.
She'll often let you take one online course in association with it, but it literally does block out your 9 to 5 every day. And then the class is Friday at like lunch. So we're part of a new internship program now that gives students $5,000 to do their internship at Child Protective Services. So it's called the University Partnership Program. So if you're looking for a paid internship, we do have that now, which is like exciting. And you can see whether or not you actually want to work it. Do you?
Yeah, because that's where I like when you work at.
Yeah. And then if you take a job after you graduate there, they have a $5,000 sign-on bonus. So if you want to work there, there's $5,000 for the internship. Then there's a sign-on bonus.
That's cool, 'cause that's like somewhere to start out.
And where's it at?
It's probably like, I don't remember our county here, but I feel like it's Greene County. So Greene County Children's Services.
I don't know if I can work down here.
Really? It's scary, isn't
It's
it?
just working at McDonald's.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Luckily, you would be shadowing a social worker. It would be professional. We always have people, those uncomfortable situations. That's why in like intro to social work, we do the field observation experience where you go a place that you're not used to. We deal with every culture, creed, religion, race, and everything. And we just have to learn how to be professional and stay professional. So it's all about keeping that professionalism. And it's social work is not always comfortable. That's the hard part. It's like we get into uncomfortable situations. It's key to stay professional. If it feels unsafe, you talk with your supervisor about it and make sure that they have plans of action and how to keep it safe because they're used to definite challenges that come up on those internships. It's probably why they pay too, you know what I mean? Which is most internships are not paid. I will say that. I did not get paid for my internship, and I had to do 900 hours through my master's. You do 300, 300, 300. But since you all do 400 in undergrad, to get your master's, you only have to do like 250, 250, and you're done, which is cool. It's like doing your first year of graduate school, your senior year.
Right.
And it's out the way. Have you guys looked at what these graduate schools would look like? I know you're all juniors or seniors, right? Okay. And what it looks like to apply. So, what's that? There are some free ones. Did you know that? There are some that are funded. So we have a big connection with MSW Advanced Standing Program, UC in particular. Which city are you from? So would you want to go to Cleveland or are you open to like anywhere? So here is one that's online. They're usually twice as expensive when they're online as everybody wants an online program that's like you work full time and go to school online. So that's why they make them more expensive. But Capella is also online, very expensive. The local ones are the most affordable is Miami University in Middletown. We have Miami and then Wright State University. They used to be combined programs. See, they must pay Google the most because they come up on search right away, no matter what. But when I search that, you can tell who pays them all. Did you know that Google like prioritizes the ads based on how much you pay them? It's kind of sketchy. For real. That's why I like using different search engines sometimes. Maybe this isn't Google. That one's actually Bing. Maybe they pay Bing the most. So anyway, locally, we have OSU is actually online. That may be, theirs is expensive though. So Ohio State University. One thing to know, especially for anyone who is a senior, are you the only senior or do we have other seniors in here? So you would be applying to this one, but one thing to know is apply before December because that's when they're handing out all the money, which sounds fast because now you only have October and November to fill out your application and get.
That program only, that's only like social work though.
No, you can go into this with a psych degree or a crim J degree or anything. So the one that's specific to social work is the advanced standing. So that one's only 1 year, whereas this one is usually 2 years full time. So that's the difference. And why I say the BSW students here, because we're in a credit school, it's as if you're doing your freshman year graduate school here during your senior year. You got your internship, you got your practice classes. Hello, how are you? And here's what it looks like to do the traditional MSW program here. They have the application process, they have all the hours. One thing we found though, it is a little bit more hours at Ohio State University. I don't know if they have like a specialty area, and it's expensive as heck. So here's your tuition. Not terrible, as you do get $21,000 a year in student loans during grad school, which is funny, is they all charge about the same amount of $21,000 a year for grad school. Is how much they give you in student loans, $21,000 a year for grad school. So here it looks like they give you a little bit to live off of. That's part-time. This one's MSW full-time. So if you're not a social work major, you can apply to this one right here. And that is weird that they do that. So the tuitions are a little bit expensive. Here's another program. If you looked at Miami University Middletown and Ohio University has an online one. But you do want to apply within the next 2 months. So that means like your senior year, you want to get a lot of this done like September, October, November, to talk to your teachers for letters of rec and whoever you use for a letter of recommendation, and then apply. So Miami MSW. Here's the, they keep giving me whoever pays them advertising. So here's another one that's in Miami, Florida, but this is Miami of Ohio. This is probably the most affordable. And so here's the curriculum, which I feel like is the shortest out of all of them. Here's the curriculum. Because OSU makes you do 43 hours for the advanced standing MSW. We noticed that this one makes you do 36. So, and here's where it says that advanced standing are exempt from these courses. So you guys already take all these your senior year. That's why it's cool to be an accredited program. You skip out of 24 hours, and that's like $20,000. Then you take these 19, and then a lot of times they have like what it costs to. So is there financial assistance available? They have those scholarships. Those are usually what you have to apply for before Christmas and whatnot. The classes are mostly in Middletown campus. So 4 to 6:40 and 7 to 9:40. That was the latest I ever taught in my life. 9:40 p.m. But that's because everyone's working full time a lot. So. And then one other is Wright State MSW, if you're staying local here. And they are CSWE accredited, and it's at wright.edu. Happy birthday. Oh boy. So those are some ideas for you. And this is one of the classes you get to skip because you guys are taking it in your undergraduate. It's called Human Behavior in the Social Environment. Part 1 and Part 2 you do in undergrad. If you have to take it in grad school, they do it all in one semester. But you get to skip that. What? What's that? I could. Yeah, I could. Let's see here. What's it called? Ashford Chapter 4. It's hard to remember everything we do in life. You ever notice that?
What's our next assignment? Another map?
The genogram you already did. So EcoMap genogram is going to be presenting on a major mental health disorder. So a presentation. It is a presentation on a
We
major.
got to present. We got to present.
Are we gonna be in teams? Teams, do teams.
Because of the COVID pandemic, if you filmed yourself
Oh, the pandemic.
on YouTube Live,
Pandemic is over.
it is over. The president did say that. So it's up to you if you still want to.
Can we do teams?
So to
There's
stay,
only like 6 people in this class.
Oh no, it's more than that.
it's usually like 20 online. We got Tyler, Adriel, Kiesia, Maya, Anna, Cherie, Amira. So you can film it on YouTube Live, but some people do addiction, some people do alcoholism, some people do poverty is actually a good one, as it does affect mental health. Also, food deserts is another one we talk about a lot.
How many slides you could have?
Usually you'll talk for like 10 to 15 minutes, so just to cover your major mental health
So
disorder.
you can have like 3 slides and just talk slow.
You could if you talk really slow and give lots of details. That's one way to do
What if, I ain't giving everybody ideas, but I'm ego to you.
it. So poverty, addiction, anorexia, alcoholism. Oh, it's making me sign back in. I love this.
What
Is
is
it-
it gonna be?
So you can start presenting in a few weeks. So is that going to be? It's going to be through October 1/8. Because I can't believe we're already at midterm 575. Midterm. That's the midterm. That's right. Yeah. So just make sure you got them in, got them done. And we're in the wrong. What's the name of yours? HBSE?
Yeah.
Announcements? Let's see here. When is homecoming anyway?
The 8th.
Okay. The whole week? Actually, we are going to have graduates speak in the class, so that'll be fun. Major mental health disorder.
That's how you make the assignment. That's all you do.
What's that? You want to make one? So this one's just going to be sign up for dates in October to present.
Oh, you pick your own next.
Well, people are speaking on the homecoming Thursday, so yeah, technically there won't be anything Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They're just coming to speak. Yeah, isn't that weird how you do those assignments like that?
I'm saying like so won't wait for the class.
No, it should be a couple people in one
day.
because that can only gotta be 10 minutes or 15.
Right, yeah, you can do a few in an hour, like 5 in a day. It depends. So it was Ashford Chapter 4 you want? You all get free access to the book. I'm jealous.
That book, it's a hard copy. You still didn't get it? The hard copy?
Really? Did I just crash it? That's weird.
And then it just went through. I just got an email. Like, oh no. I just looked at my email like, oh, your book is ready.
Oh, you have to go pick it up?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But it took so long for it to go through that she already had the book. It just, for some reason, I couldn't get it.
Who has all the books?
I got the book too.
There it is. Wow, that's a lot of files. How can you have so many files on one computer? Oh, that's the thing. My previous class, I was stressing that for all of you guys, and I think you're good at this, but to make it anywhere in life, you've got to be able to write well. And I only say it because I've sucked. I had dyslexia and ADHD and wasn't supposed to finish high school, was definitely not supposed to finish college. Don't know how I finished graduate school, but then in the doctoral program, using the assistive reading and then also voice to text technology to be able to type, like to argue your point, you've got to be able to write. You know, I know we have vlogs nowadays where you get on and do like voice, which is fine. If you click the part that says to go voice to text during your vlog, that would be even more powerful, is you want to get things down in writing. So when you're advocating for a client, we have to write a note about them. I always wanted to get into social work because I'm like, oh, I'm just going to be a homeless advocate. I'm not going to have to write papers. I'm not going to have to do anything. I just get out there and advocate. Well, it turns out when you get into the field and you got to ask for donations, you got to write things well and ask people to donate to your homeless shelter or donate food or give to the food pantry. And then I got to write a thank you letter to them. So just writing in general, as crazy as it sounds, that will take you the furthest in what you want to do with your dreams. So graduate school is a big piece of that. Everything you do, I feel like in graduate school is writing. It's all writing. So there is your that's your that's the announcement, right? So in the assignment, we can do pick a date in October to present. New assignment, right? How are your all's other classes going? Are you a criminal justice minor? Really? Okay, I gotta make it visible and then I gotta save it. Can also do it as a discussion. If I do a discussion, it's for like extra credit. So just because the discussion board on D2L is not very good. It's just, I don't know. Have you guys done discussions in other classes? Yeah. How does it work? There's something weird about it. So if I put up a discussion, I make it, it'll probably be extra credit to write about paper tigers and the trauma sensitive interventions. So we're getting to like an older kid. And I ask you guys a question. At what age can a baby obey when not in the presence of others? Which is self-regulation. What age do you guys think that is? They can actually behave without mom or dad standing over them, telling them what to do, and disciplining them when they don't. What age is that?
Is it a baby or a kid?
Right. It shouldn't say a baby.
It's probably a kid. So I'm saying like
right.
8, 9.
Yeah, I would say 7 or 8.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's a good point. Have you ever heard the age of reason is actually 7? So that's why, and that was found out in like the Middle Ages. So like Socrates or whoever, like those philosophers. And also why, if you've in the church, do you guys have what do they call that? Not first communion, but like after first communion in 6th, 7th grade. It's confirmation. They still do confirmation in the church. Right. So basically, in some churches, when they give you more responsibility as a kid is at the age of 7. Like you're responsible for your sins or whatever, like you go to confession, you can do different things. But that's at age 7 because you're at the age of reason. You know right from wrong at age 7. And you can, I guess, obey without mom and dad standing over. You think it's 7 or 8 or 9?
I'm gonna say 8 or 9.
Okay.
My Savior, my opinion.
So
you know right from wrong, but they're still gonna.
Right. So maybe you know it at 7, but you're going to behave.
You're still gonna try to get over it.
Right.
Until you really can comprehend the consequences of whatever you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So, that is interesting though.
It's kind of like you're saying that you got a 7-year-old sitting there and you put a bag of Sour Patch Kids in front of them and tell them don't eat it. Do you really think they're not gonna eat it?
Oh yeah. Have you seen the marshmallow experiment?
No, is that the one where they like get the babies a snack and they don't eat it, like walk off the room and come back in? I said every day.
Okay. So here's the marshmallow experiment. Have you guys seen these? It's actually kind of funny. Do you remember watching it? It's probably under Marshmallow Challenge and videos. This is more Google too. I don't know what the Marshmallow Challenge is though. Here we go. This is freaking hilarious. Because you can tell the age when they're like, okay, I'm going to pay attention to you now.
It's good. Okay, so here's the deal. There's a marshmallow. You can either wait, and I'll bring you back another one. So you can have 2, or you can eat it now. So you can eat it now, or you can wait, and I'll bring you back 2. Okay? Okay, I'll be back.
I want 2.
Okay, so I have 1 marshmallow for each of you. And here's the deal. You can either eat it now, or you can wait till I get back, and you can have 2. Okay? So eat it now, or wait till I get back, and you can have 2. And I'll be back in a moment.
If we wait, will you give us 2?
Yep, if you wait, you get 2. Or you can eat it now, whichever you want. Okay? I'll be back in a moment.
Why is he dressed up like a cow?
Where's that way?
Oh, you're right. You're probably right. She's already eaten it. They're like 7, I think, probably 6 or 7.
But if you wait until she gets back, she'll give you 2.
She doesn't give a dang about it.
She still won't give you 2 because you ate it. I didn't eat a single bite.
Don't show her. You like flip it upside down where there's no bite marks. There's a lot of these, and the kids go crazy. It's kind of funny. They're like, it must be Halloween or something. They're all dressed up weird.
Okay, so I have this marshmallow, and you can eat it now, or if you wait a little bit, I'll bring back 2 for you.
What's she
okay?
dressed up as? Oh, okay. She's like, I don't care about 2. I want it now.
Good. Okay, well, I'm gonna go and I haven't found marshmallows yet, so I'm gonna look for some more, but use here, and if you haven't eaten that one, I'll bring back another one, okay? I'll be right back.
I know. He's like,
You're eating. Still eat some of that stuff. Still good.
she left.
Oh, what happened? Oh,
Like, looks around like, it's got to be Halloween. Why are they all dressed? Yeah. He's like, this is stupid.
You'll get 2. Good job. You can eat it.
Dang, that's a young kid to be following directions.
You can eat them now.
So there's others that are actually better. I just don't want to sort through them, because I feel like I've been showing this for a few years. So like, yeah, the Age of Reason, when they follow, actually it is that one. Did you tell him happy birthday? You got to tell him happy birthday for us, no matter what. You got to tell him happy birthday. Who you were talking to? Like, I got better stuff to do.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have 2. But stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right.
It smells really good.
All right, so it's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? Come back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay.
How'd you do? Did you do good? You did? You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So I'll tell you to give you another one. Okay, now you can have both. Mm.
You think?
They're impulsive kids. You
Right.
have like calm kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think like impulsive kids are not going to just sit there.
Right. Well, and you're absolutely right. They could have ADHD. They could have whatever it is. Even trauma, where they're like afraid they aren't going to get food in the future. So that's why you sometimes see food hoarding behaviors, or you just eat, and that's some of the stuff that comes up. But that would be self-regulation. They have done a lot of research on it. The theory is kids that are able to wait will have like a more decorated future. Like you have the ability to like have patience for like a raise or work towards something and not have the instantaneous gratification. So that's the argument. Some say it's a bad argument because well, you'd have to read the forums online, but some are like, no, that's not true, and some are like, no, but it shows this. And what role does the process of self-referencing play in self-regulation of behavior? And then the responses from others influences moral development, but the implication can be to avoid certain responses. So we try to teach our kids morals and values and all that. It's not always certainly going to stick, or maybe something from somebody else takes more precedent for them. So you can see different reactions in those aspects. So some of the psychological strengths and hazards, we reviewed the attachment problems and the failure to form an attachment and how it affects our relationships in the future. Loss of a caregiver, how that can affect relationships in the future. And some research done on failure to thrive. So the child's weight below 5th percentile for age. So I don't know if you guys have seen and that's, in my opinion, that can also be a food desert problem or like poverty problem. If you're not getting the nutrition, and why Help Me Grow would be important. You can be underweight. Sometimes it is a genetic thing. So if it's organic, it's an underlying medical condition. But if it's non-organic, it could be a psychological condition like emotional deprivation or difficult family situations. So talking of a trauma. And then some social strength hazards. This is our circular influence on the family. Yeah.
Okay, this says isn't about the eco math assignment.
Uh-huh.
Can I turn it into you like my paper, or you want me to like take a picture of it and turn it on D2L?
Do it on D2L. That way I can actually type the grade in. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So snap a photo and then up on D2L.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. For sure. So this is a circular pattern. If there's domestic violence, marital interactions, the parents, you could have the baby's response, then family stress, then it's kind of a cycle of violence that could affect the kid's behavior. And you see challenges that come from that. There's also other hazards that show up, like the father's involvement and or the mother's involvement. So some strengths and hazards that they need social support. The maternal grandmother, that can be a lot of times a big, for whatever reason, it seems, why do you think maternal grandmothers are more involved than paternal grandmothers?
They really are.
Yeah, it is weird. Now I have heard, like when, for example, my wife had a daughter, they're saying that your grandkids are actually present in the daughter's ovaries. So you have 3 generations that you're carrying in your womb. You've got you, you've got your daughter, and then in her ovaries are the eggs that would be a kid of, and maybe that's the connection. I don't know.
I just think that when they're I think that will.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
think that after enough like come for me, I'm gonna go ask my family for help first before I ask his family for help.
Right, and I've noticed that with mine too.
So it's like
And
natural for me to just thank you.
yep,
Call my sister.
and she really won't. Like my parents offered to come over this weekend, and like they're offering to help, but they also live 40 minutes away, and our family's all within 1 or 2 miles. My family has offered to help, but it does seem to be the maternal one that's taken. Now she needs a hip replacement in about a week and a half, so that kind of stinks.
Well, then you gotta think too, on the maternal side, they're so used to her already, they'll just take over even if she doesn't have.
Right.
Like, I can see her, so I'm gonna take it. Like,
Right.
And then like kind of like on the other side, they're trying to like respect boundaries still.
Right.
Too much. So it's kind of I think like a mental thing actually.
Right. Yeah, that could be definitely a big part of it. And even for our baby due in New Year's, and I understand and support her. My mom's like, come over in the next month and stay at our house overnight. And then when you have the baby, you can stay at our house for a month. And she's saying, no, I feel most comfortable at our house and doing what we want. And I don't want to stay in. That's nice to offer and say, like, I'll cook for you or whatever, but we don't want it.
No, because it's not. No.
It's not home.
When you have an baby, go home.
Right. It's not home.
You gotta stay in the hospital for a day. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. We don't even want to stay in the hospital. So she may take it personal. She may not, but we're not going to stay. It was so she's like, I did it for Maria, and that's my sister. I'm like, well, yeah, your daughter.
Yeah.
And she's that was her house growing up. So she feels
So
comfortable.
she still feel comfortable at home.
Right.
Different.
So
And I think it's different when you have other kids, because then they're not comfortable. They're not home.
right. Yeah. I agree. So I'm defending her on that. I said, if you don't want to go, we don't have to go. And it doesn't matter who takes it personal or what. Like, we'll be okay. She said if she wants to help, she can come to our house and like do laundry or dishes, but we're good. What's that?
She wants to go home.
Right. Yeah. And I get it. I'm like, I know my parents are older and had 5 kids and probably like a empty nest, so they got bedrooms and everything and space. But again, we're good. We appreciate it, but we're good. So, playing with the baby. So just making sure. I'm even thinking of like our neighbors. So we have this area, and 5 houses share the backyards. There's a dead end street behind us, and then there's no fences, and we do all share. Like they have a swing set. We put up a bounce house and the kids kind of play together. We had a swimming pool, but the other day I saw one of the kids hit one of the other kids. And I'm thinking of, just still needing to give that. It was like a 3 and a 4-year-old. So they need that guidance or they're going to beat the hell out of each other. Like you can't just leave them unattended. They were fighting over blocks and it was just stupid. There were plenty of blocks for everybody, but one of them wanted all of them. So the other one just hit her. And I was like, dang. And mom saw it and came quickly, but that was at our house. You guys got to go, don't you? You got important other things. You can watch it on the YouTube if you want.
Okay.
Then daycare. That's the hardest part. That's most expensive for all of us. Like, I don't even know how people afford it. I feel like my wife said if she worked, she could maybe she's finishing her degree here still and has 30 hours left, but maybe you make 10, 12. As a pharmacy tech, she made 17 an hour. So that was good for like a high school or GED. And at UC hospital, they paid like 20 some an hour. But you can only work so much and you're paying all that into daycare.
Yeah.
All of it goes to daycare. So, right. And I'm like, well, would it help for at least a mental health break so you can go to work and then, just whatever ways you can support. But I'm like, it's fine if we can keep it going, that we will. So daycare, infant abuse, appropriate environment. So be able to read what the baby needs, like playing at the appropriate times and different things of that nature. I forget if I'm signed into Amazon here for Paper Tigers. I should make sure. I am. So Paper Tigers documentary. Because we are getting into, oh, now it's free with ads. I didn't know they started doing that. They're smart. It's used to just be straight up free, and it's not anymore. Maybe I already get my first advertisement. So if this does cut me out on the YouTube stream, this is called Paper Tigers, a documentary about trauma-informed care.
Oh, fuck. Shit. Next time I'll be serious. You wanna fight again? You wanna go?
Hey, I thought we learned better. I thought we learned better.
I don't want to come here because I heard bad stories about it.
I did hear that it was the worst school you could ever go to.
That's where the bad kids went. I didn't want to go there because I get kicked out or bullied or something like that.
I first came here, you pissed me off, I put your ass. I thought I was gonna kill him.
All the kids at that point were actually forced to be here. They weren't here by choice. Have a student come walking through the door that would just be on a bunch of uppers or something, you know, and kick over a table, tell me to fuck off, tell someone else to fuck off, and then roll off the back door, you know. But it's stupid.
I remember for the first 2 weeks just going, this is absolute chaos. Very gang affiliated. It's from juvie kids at night. It was fights all over. And it was just like one thing after another. And I just kept thinking, who's here to do something? Like no one's really doing anything.
So there's a lot of statistics on toxic stress. The term to describe traumatic experiences in childhood which threaten healthy brain development and are associated with lifelong health and social problems. So I do want to get into this. I also signed us up to have one of the graduates come as a speaker on homecoming. Do you guys remember when homecoming is? It's in like a few weeks, I think. Okay. So we got 20, 27. Okay. And I do want to watch parts of this, but there's also, have any of you heard of Dr. Nadine Burke? She is a medical doctor. She has a famous clip about the study and toxic stress. I wonder what this 23-second one is. She's on Twitter. So she does a lot of work specific to trauma, and she is a medical doctor. She works with social workers. This is her famous TED Talk, and I do get dinged on the copyright from YouTube if I play it so that people online can't see it. But she talks specific to ACEs, which is stands for the Adverse Childhood Experiences. This is what the movie Paper Tigers is going over, and there's several ACEs, about 10 different ones that they say we could experience, and Maybe this will do it without, because the TED Talks always copyright infringe you, but maybe just something where she's speaking won't be as bad. But she's a revolutionary doctor. I don't want notifications from them. Let's see if this works. And the work she's done has become world renowned. And it's off of the ACEs study that was first done 20 some years ago by Dr. Folletti.
I am the first state surgeon general. Governor Newsom created the position, and I was thrilled to be appointed in January of 2019. I was really fortunate that when I was a kid, my mom would always say to me, "The sky is the limit, my dear. The sky is the limit." And I was really raised to think that anything was possible. And I think that's something that we want for all of our children, to be able to recognize that they are capable of anything they set their minds and their hearts to. When I was growing up, I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor, probably from the age of 4 years old. I knew I love science, I love people, I love taking care of people, so I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. When I got further on in my professional career, I did a master's in public health. I did my medical school training and my residency. And if you're a doctor and you care about people and you care about public health, Surgeon General is kind of the dream job. So it certainly was my dream job. And when I got the call from Governor Newsom about this opportunity, the idea of being California's first state surgeon general really was a dream come true. It has been an extraordinary experience, and I love being California's doctor. Yeah, so it was actually 2 different members of Governor Newsom's leadership team reached out to me, and then we ended up scheduling a time for me to sit down and have a one-on-one with the governor. And so
if you guys get a chance, look up her TED Talk on trauma specifically. I wonder how long. I might be able to play the first 2 minutes before it flags me, but it's often the noise. You know what the TED Talk noise is if you've ever watched them? I think that's what flags you. So let me see if I can skip that real quick. It's about adverse childhood experiences and toxic stress. And it can be physical abuse, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse, neglect of either physical or emotional, and then household dysfunction, mental illness, incarcerated relative, mother treated violently, substance abuse, or divorce. And that's a common one. So 60% of us have experienced divorce in some way. And that's why most of us do have 1 or 2 ACEs. And if you have more than 3 or 4 ACEs, you're in trouble. If you skip self-care. If you do the self-care, you can actually reverse the effects of ACEs. So actually, I'm going to skip the noise by muting it. That's how I'm going to do it.
Are your
And they'll probably let me get 2 minutes in and then flag it as a copyright. But it's for educational purposes. It's this noise. If you ever listen, it sounds like water dropping, like onto ideas worth spreading. But a super important TED
In the
Talk.
mid-90s, the CDC and Kaiser Permanente discovered an exposure that dramatically increased the risk for 7 out of 10 of the leading causes of death in the United States. In high doses, it affects brain development, the immune system, hormonal systems, and even the way our DNA is read and transcribed. Folks who are exposed in very high doses have triple the lifetime risk of heart disease and lung cancer, and a 20-year difference in life expectancy. And yet doctors today are not trained in routine screening or treatment. Now, the exposure I'm talking about is not a pesticide or packaging chemical. It's childhood trauma. Okay,
What kind of trauma am I talking about here? I'm not talking about failing a test or losing a basketball game. I am talking about threats that are so severe or pervasive that they literally get under our skin. Up with a parent who struggles with mental illness or substance dependence. Now, for a long time, I viewed these things in the way I was trained to view them, either as a social problem, refer to social services, or as a mental health problem, refer to mental health services. And then something happened to make me rethink my entire approach. When I finished my residency, I wanted to go someplace where I felt really needed, someplace where I could make a difference. So I came to work for California Pacific Medical Center, one of the best private hospitals in Northern California. And together, we opened a clinic in Bayview, Hunters Point, one of the poorest, most underserved neighborhoods in San Francisco. Now, prior to that point, there had been only one pediatrician in all of Bayview to serve more than 10,000 children. So we hung a shingle and we were able to provide top quality care regardless of ability to pay. It was so cool. We targeted the typical health disparities, access to care, immunization rates, asthma hospitalization rates, and we hit all of our numbers. We felt very proud of ourselves. But then I started noticing a disturbing trend. A lot of kids were being referred to me for ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But when I actually did a thorough history and physical, what I found was that for most of my patients, I couldn't make a diagnosis of ADHD. Most of the kids I was seeing had experienced such severe trauma that it felt like something else was going on. Somehow, I was missing something important. Now, before I did my residency, I did a master's degree in public health. And one of the things that they teach you in public health school is that if you're a doctor and you see 100 kids that all drink from the same well, and 98 of them develop diarrhea, you can go ahead and write that prescription for dose after dose after dose of antibiotics, or you can walk over and say, what the hell is in this well? So I began reading everything that I could get my hands on about how exposure to adversity affects the developing brains and bodies of children. And then one day, my colleague walked into my office and he said, Dr. Burke, have you seen this? In his hand was a copy of a research study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. That day changed my clinical practice and ultimately my career. The Adverse Childhood Experiences Study is something that everybody needs to know about. It was done by Dr. Vince Felitti at Kaiser and Dr. Bob Anda at the CDC, and together they asked 17,500 adults about their history of exposure to what they called adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. Those include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, physical or emotional neglect, parental mental illness, substance dependence, incarceration, parental separation or divorce, or domestic violence. For every yes, you would get a point on your ACE score. And then what they did was they correlated these ACE scores against health outcomes. What they found was striking. Two things. Number one, this is incredibly common, ACE, and 12.6%, 1 in 8, 4 or more ACEs. The second thing that they found was that there was a dose-response relationship between ACEs and health outcomes. The higher your ACE score, the worse your health outcomes. For a person with an ACE score of 4 or more, their relative risk of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease was 2.5 times that of someone with an ACE score of. For hepatitis, it was also 2.5 times. For depression, it was 4.5 times. For suicidality, it was 12 times. A person with an ACE score of 7 or more had triple the lifetime risk of lung cancer, and 3.5 times the risk of ischemic heart disease, the #1 killer in the United States of America. Well, of course, this makes sense. You know, some people looked at this data and they said, come on, you know, you have a rough childhood, you're more likely to drink and smoke and do all these things that are going to ruin your health. This isn't science. Just take. It turns out this is exactly. It turns out than we ever have before how exposure to early adversity affects the developing brains and bodies of children. It affects areas like the nucleus accumbens, the pleasure and reward center of the brain that is implicated in substance dependence. It inhibits the prefrontal cortex, which is necessary for impulse control and executive function, a critical area for learning. And on MRI scans, we see measurable differences in the amygdala, the brain's fear response center. So there are real neurologic reasons why folks exposed to high doses of adversity are more likely to engage in high-risk behavior. And that's important to know. But it turns out that even if you don't engage in any high-risk behavior, you're still more likely to develop heart disease, cancer. The reason for this has to do with the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the brain's and body's stress response system that governs our fight or flight response. How does it work? Well, imagine you're walking in the forest and you see a bear. Immediately, your hypothalamus sends a signal to your pituitary, which sends a signal to your adrenal gland that says, release stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. And so your heart starts to pound, your pupils dilate, your airways open up, and you are ready to either fight that bear or run from the bear. And that is wonderful if you're in a forest and there's a bear. But the problem is what happens when the bear comes home every night. And this system is activated over and over and over again. And it goes from being adaptive or life-saving to maladaptive and stress activation, because their brains and bodies are just developing. High doses of adversity not only affect brain structure and function, they affect the developing immune system, developing hormonal systems, and even the way our DNA is read and transcribed. So for me, this information threw my old training out the window, because when we understand the mechanism of a disease, when we know not only which pathways are disrupted, but how, then as doctors, it is our job to use this science for prevention and treatment. That's what we do. So in San Francisco, we created a Center for Youth Wellness to prevent, screen, and heal the impacts of ACEs and toxic stress. We started simply with routine screening of every one of our kids at their regular physical, because I know that if my patient has an ACE score of 4, she's 2.5 times as likely to develop hepatitis or COPD. She's 4.5 times as likely to become depressed, and she's 12 times as likely to attempt to take her own life as my patient with 0 ACEs. I know that when she's in my exam room. For our patients who do screen positive, we have a multidisciplinary treatment team that works to reduce the dose of adversity and treat symptoms using best practices, including home visits, care coordination, mental health care, nutrition, holistic interventions, and yes, medication when necessary. But we also educate parents about the impact of ACEs and toxic stress the same way you would for covering electrical outlets for lead poisoning. And we tailor care of our asthmatics and our diabetics in a way that recognizes that they may need more aggressive treatment given the changes to their hormonal and immune systems. So the other thing that happens when you understand this science is that you'll want to shout it from the rooftops. because this isn't just an issue for kids in Bayview. I figured the minute that anybody else heard of this, it would be routine screening, your multidisciplinary treatment teams, and it would be a race to the most effective clinical treatment protocols. Yeah, that did not happen. And that was a huge learning for me. What I had thought of as simply best clinical practice, I now understand to be a movement. In the words of Dr. Robert Block, the former president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, adverse childhood experiences are the single greatest unaddressed public health threat facing our nation today. And for a lot of people, that's a terrifying prospect. The scope and scale of the problem seems so large that it feels overwhelming to think about how we might approach it. But for me, that's actually where the hope lies. Because when we have the right framework, when we recognize this to be a public crisis, up with solutions, from tobacco to lead poisoning to HIV/AIDS, the United States actually has quite a strong track record with addressing public health problems. Why haven't we taken this more seriously? You know, at first, I thought that we marginalized the issue because it doesn't apply to us, right? That's an issue for those neighborhoods, which is weird because the data doesn't bear that out. The original ACEs study was done in a population that was 70% Caucasian, 70% college educated. But then, the more I talk to folks, I'm beginning to think that maybe I had it completely backwards. If I were to ask how many people in this room grew up with a family member who suffered from mental illness, or who really believe that if you spare the rod, you spoil the child, I bet a few more hands would go up. Even in this room, this isn't much as many of us. And I'm beginning to believe that we marginalize the issue because
I know we're over. Go ahead.
We'd rather be sick. Fortunately, scientific advances and frankly, economic realities make that option less viable every day. The science is clear. Early adversity dramatically affects health across the lifetime. Today, we are beginning to understand how to interrupt the progression from early adversity to disease and early death. And 30 years from now, the child who has a high ACE score and whose behavioral symptoms go unrecognized, whose asthma management is not connected, and who goes on to develop high blood pressure and early heart disease or cancer will be just as anomalous as a 6-month mortality from HIV/AIDS. People will look at that situation and say, what the heck happened there? This is treatable. This is beatable. The single most important thing that we need today is the courage to look this problem in the face and say, this is real and this is all of us. I believe that we are the movement. Thank you.
I think good research. I think she says it the most succinct way out of anybody that I've watched. Like, she's just good at explaining it. And that's kind of your precursor to the Paper Tigers Adverse Childhood Experiences movie, because there's definitely a lot there. And I know we're over, so I'll hold it off till next time for you guys. Any questions?